This is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek, and the issue of the post office and the protection of the mail and timely delivery of mail is a national issue for working people, for the public, for people, veterans and people who need medicine in the mail, and also the upcoming election. And this has become a critical issue to make sure that people have a right to vote and have their ballots counted. And WorkWeek today is talking with Cynthia Datangel, who is with the American Postal Workers Union San Francisco Local 2 and is familiar with some of these issues. So welcome to WorkWeek, Cynthia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So Cynthia, why don't you talk about your concerns? This morning there were hearings on the post office with the Postmaster General, and your concerns as a postal worker, a leader of postal workers in San Francisco.
Well, the concerns are that, number one, our workers are really good workers. They're really concerned about getting the mail out. It's part of our, culture to make sure that the mail gets out timely. So there is a concern from them that the Postmaster General has imposed a lot of new changes that is affecting the mail. A lot of times management will say that, the mail's still getting out on time, but I think most people, in the public that use the mail system have personal experience that the mail is definitely not getting out and not getting to places on time. Personally, I've ordered stuff for the office and it's taking weeks, and sometimes it's just not coming in. Orders are getting canceled. So it is a reality out there. Our thing is that we want these changes, the reversals, to be permanent, not just to last through election, because it's not just about the ballot, but the vital deliveries that are being made to, our communities, those are still needed, whether or not it's election time or not.
One of the critical issues is, of course, the effect of the pandemic, the virus, COVID-19 on frontline workers, and postal workers are frontline workers. And 40,000 postal workers have either gotten sick from the virus or been quarantined. How has this affected San Francisco members of your union?
We are getting increased cases. When this pandemic started, we had issues with PPEs, and at least within the last month or so, we're getting almost a case or two a week in different parts of San Francisco. So it's really concerning, and employees are scared, and of course they, are bringing, possible viruses back to home, to their families. But, our employees really are, heroes, because they still show up to work day after day, whether or not, there's a heightened risk in coming to work, and majority of them are coming to work.
And I know in San Francisco, as well as other places around the country, there was an effort to close post offices. What is the effect of closing post offices and removing equipment?
So, as far as I know, so far in San Francisco, they have not closed any post offices. But if we're talking about the smaller post offices out within the cities, the stations, that affects the community directly because they use those facilities to, get their mail out. Now, if you're talking about machineries and the larger plants, that affects the time that it takes to process the mail, to get it out for delivery. So in San Francisco, they have dismantled a few machineries, and I do not believe they're planning to put them back in. As far as I know, some of that machinery has been taken apart, and certain sections of it has been repurposed. So for them to be able to, bring it back, I don't know. And I don't know the time frame that it will take to actually do it, even if they intended to do it. So hopefully they do intend to, put those machineries back. And start it now so that it'll be ready for the ballots. In terms of, removing them, it really doesn't make sense to me, because even though we do have a reduced volume of mail coming in currently, it picks up, and if the virus, gets under control, all that mail will come back, but the machinery is not, there. So we'll see. But we are pushing for them to reverse all the changes that they've made.
And Postmaster DeJoy has said that he has no intention of bringing those machines back into production, even though, as you say, those machines speed up the mail. So that is obviously a serious issue. Another issue that I want to talk about is the Postal Reform Act in 1980 to make the post office efficient, more efficient and profitable. What's your idea about profitability? I know the post office was started by Benjamin Franklin as a critical part of the United States, the development of the United States, to have a post office with equal access for all and mail for all people, including rural areas. What do you think about the efforts to make the post office similar to FedEx or another private company?
If you ever go to, I've gone to FedEx, and if you ever go to a UPS store or anything like that and you want to mail something out, you'll see the price difference. It's very obvious that in our service, we're not a profit-based company or business. So for you to get a piece of mail out, it will cost you practically, cents to get it to anywhere in our nation, across the country, no matter where you live, whether you're out in the rural areas, in the farmland, where there's, not too much infrastructure, or in the big cities like San Francisco, it costs you pretty much the same amount of money. So for us to become something like FedEx, it's not a good thing for our country, and it's not, good for the working class or for the elderly, for the disabled people, or, anybody else who may not be able to afford such services.
So you're saying it's a way of fairness for the entire population, not for people who have a lot of money or people who have good incomes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now, another issue that has come up in the past, and that is the kind of stress in the post office with postal workers, that you have the term going postal, where workers are stressed out and there are acts of violence in the post office. The issue of injuries and speed ups, is that a problem in the post office?
Well, I can only tell you from where I serve, which is the San Francisco area. And I have heard people, our members complaining about, due to the reduction in the machinery, they want to, they're trying to get these few machines that are left running, continuously, which causes an issue with employees being able to take their breaks timely, their lunches timely, because they just want this mill being run, In terms of stress, I think there's a lot of stress because of the fear of the virus, number one. And number two, there's a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety out there. And, of course, management in itself is also stressed because they're still trying to keep up with the mail and making sure that things are getting out like it should. And, and there's a problem with that right now.
And do you think there's a plan to basically privatize it and make it so that people want to go to another service, and that is part of privatization? What's your idea of privatization and the threat that...
I think that's existed for quite a while. I mean, it's something that's been always threatening the postal workers. And I know they always, want to say that, we're losing money and we're not making money and we can't afford this or can't afford that. But really, privatizing the postal service is not an option because, like I said, we need a viable universal service that services the whole country affordably. And so hopefully, Congress will pass this new bill, and hopefully the representatives, the senators will pass it. I know Congress, the representatives have passed it, but we still need the senators to do that. So, it's been an effort. I think it's been an effort to privatize for a long time, but we've been able to keep it at bay for now. And hopefully with all the support from the people and from the whole country almost, because we do have a 91% approval rate with the public. And seems like, we're getting more support lately. So hopefully that will help us in our efforts.
And one of the issues about privatization is that There are a large number of postal employees who are black, who are Latino, who are disabled, who are veterans, who would not necessarily have those jobs if it was privatized. Is that an issue for you? The fact that these workers, black, Latino, and veterans, are really depending on the post office for a decent living and decent wages and conditions?
Yes, that's true, because the Postal Service does provide decent wage jobs, many, to colored, people of color, and it's been like that. And also for the veterans, they get preferencing points when they get hired if they're veterans. So they're, hired, they're given priority in hiring. So that's something that our country also needs.
And you're going to be having a National Day of Action, the 25th. What is that all about, and how are you organizing it, and how do you want the people to support the efforts to keep the post office public and to protect it?
Okay, so tomorrow we're having a day of action nationwide. So in San Francisco, we will be having one on, I guess it's off of Market. It's 1390 Market Street, and it's going to be at noon. And basically, we're going to have a picketing and informational leafleting over there. Hopefully, people can join us. If they want more information, they can go online and log on to, say, the Postal Service. They can log on to usmail.forsale.org, and there's a site for different events that's happening throughout the country. You can type in your zip code, and it will show you whatever's closest to you, whatever event's going on there tomorrow. Also, we're urging people to call Congress, and the number for that is 833-924-0085 to demand the $25 billion Postal Service funding, and also to advocate for permanent reversal of the changes made in the Postal Service currently.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for joining us on WorkWeek. We've been talking with Cynthia Datangel, and she is the president of APWU San Francisco Local 2. Thanks for joining us on WorkWeek.